Today, we're going deep on those iconic stone faces you've probably seen online, the Moai of Easter Island. Ready to uncover the real story behind these mysterious giants. You might be surprised by what we find.
It's a story that, it takes us to one of the most isolated inhabited islands in the world, Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, as the indigenous people call it. Imagine a volcanic island in the southeastern Pacific Ocean, thousands of miles from any major landmass. And that's where you find these figures, just standing watch over this landscape shaped by nature and human hands.
Okay, so we've all seen the pictures, right? These giant heads. But is there more to them than meets the eye?
Absolutely. While the heads are certainly striking, most Moai actually have torsos too, many ending at the thighs. So imagine these massive figures, some of them buried up to their chests, emerging from the earth, like ancient guardians.
So these aren't just heads, they're full-bodied statues.
Yeah.
And they're made of stone, right?
That's right. Most of the nearly 900 Moai are carved from a volcanic rock called tuff, primarily sourced from a place called Ranararaku, the main quarry on the island. And this volcanic origin adds another layer of symbolism to the Moai, linking them to the powerful forces that shaped the island itself.
And get this, the heads themselves aren't just randomly big, they're deliberately oversized, making up about 3/8 of the entire statue. There's definitely a reason for that.
Right. This emphasis on the head likely points to their symbolic importance. You see, these aren't just random statues, they're Aringa Ora Atatipuna, the living faces of deified ancestors. Each Moai represents a specific ancestor, imbued with their spirit and power.
Wow, that's amazing. So they were carefully designed and placed on those ceremonial platforms, the ahu.
Yes, these ahu were strategically placed around the island's perimeter, often facing inland as if watching over the land and its people. And their placement wasn't random. It reflected a deep connection between the living and the dead, the spiritual and the physical.
Okay, so picture this. One unfinished Moai, if completed, would have been a towering 69 feet tall and weighed a mind-boggling 160 tons. That's like trying to move a small apartment building.
And remember, all of this was done without modern technology. The Rapa Nui people used tools and techniques we can only theorize about today. Imagine the ingenuity, the manpower, the sheer determination required to transport these massive figures from the quarry to their final locations.
So how do they do it? Did they use wooden rollers or something?
There are many theories. Some involve wooden rollers, others suggest they may have walked the statues upright using ropes. It might sound strange, but recent experiments have shown that it's possible.
Hold on, walk them, like rocking them back and forth. That's incredible.
It might sound far-fetched, but it's a plausible explanation. By using ropes in a rocking motion, teams of people could have maneuvered these massive statues across the island.
And speaking of incredible details, did you know the Moai once had eyes?
Absolutely. Archaeologists have discovered that the eye sockets were designed to hold coral eyes. With pupils made from black obsidian or red scoria, imagine the impact these statues must have had, with their piercing gazes, looking out over the island, connecting with the spirits of their ancestors.
It's almost like they were bringing the statues to life, giving them this powerful presence. But wait, if they were so important, why are so many of them toppled over?
That's a question that's fascinated researchers for centuries. The exact reasons are still debated, but it likely involves a complex interplay of factors, including internal conflicts among the Rapa Nui clans and the devastating impact of European contact.
So it wasn't just one thing that caused the Moai to fall. It was a combination of internal strife and outside forces that ultimately led to their downfall. It's a reminder that even seemingly timeless monuments are vulnerable to the forces of history.
That's a profound observation. The Moai stand as silent witnesses to the complexities of human history, reflecting both our capacity for creation and our potential for destruction.
And this destruction continued into the 20th century, when an uprising by the indigenous Rapa Nui population against Chilean rule, led to further damage of some statues.
It's a reminder that the story of the Moai isn't just about ancient history. It's a story that continues to unfold in the present, shaped by the ongoing struggle for cultural identity and self-determination.
So the Moai aren't just impressive feats of engineering, they're also silent witnesses to the complex and often turbulent history of Rapa Nui.
They represent a culture that has faced tremendous challenges, yet has endured, holding on to its heritage and traditions despite the forces that have sought to erase them.
It's almost like these statues are trying to tell us something. urging us to listen to their silent stories and learn from the past.
And one moai in particular, Hoa Hakanaya, now housed in the British Museum, stands out for its unique story and the questions it raises about cultural heritage and repatriation.
Oh, Hakanaya, what makes this one so special?
Well, for one, it's carved from basalt, a harder volcanic rock than the tuff used for most moai. And what's really intriguing is that it's covered in these intricate petroglyphs on its back, carvings that offer a glimpse into a different chapter in Rapa Nui history.
Petroglyphs, like ancient carvings. What do they depict?
These carvings are associated with the Tangata Manu, or Birdman, religion, which emerged on the island sometime after the initial construction of the moai. Imagine a ritual competition to collect the first egg of the sooty tern from a nearby islet. The winner became the Tangata Manu, or Birdman, for a year, representing the patron god of the royal lineage.
Wow, a whole new layer of symbolism and ritual. So this moai, Ho'akananaya, is like a bridge between different eras of the island's history, embodying both the ancestor worship of the earlier period and the Birdman cult that arose later.
And its presence in the British Museum raises a very important question. Should cultural artifacts like this be returned to their places of origin? The Rapa Nui people have expressed their desire to have Hoa Hakanaya returned, and this has sparked a wider debate about repatriation and cultural heritage.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers, but it speaks to the ongoing power and significance of the moai, even centuries after their creation.
These statues continue to capture our imagination and challenge us to think about the past, present, and future of Rapa Nui. They invite us to engage with a culture that is both ancient and alive, resilient and deeply connected to its heritage. And it's not just external forces that shape the fate of the moai. The Rapa Nui people themselves might have played a role in their decline.
Oh, are we talking about that idea that the islanders kind of destroyed their own environment? You know, that they cut down all the trees and that led to all sorts of problems?
It's a theory that has been around for a while, but the reality is a bit more nuanced. While deforestation did happen on the island, it's not the whole story. Recent research suggests that rats, introduced by Polynesian voyagers, might have been a bigger problem. These rats ate the palm seeds, which meant the trees couldn't grow back.
So it wasn't just humans chopping down trees. Rats were part of the problem too.
Exactly. And there's even evidence that the Rapa Nui people adapted to these changes. They found new ways to farm, using volcanic rock to help the soil. They also started eating more seafood, like fish and shellfish.
So they were able to adapt to the challenges they face. That's a good reminder that people can be resourceful.
The story of Easter Island is often seen as a warning, but it's also a story of how people can adapt and survive. It's a reminder that humans are capable of finding solutions even in difficult situations.
It makes you wonder what life was like for the people who created these giant statues. What can we learn about their lives?
Archaeological evidence and oral traditions suggest that Rapa Nui society had different levels of status, with the chiefs and clans. The size and placement of a moai might have shown the status of the person or clan it represented.
So bigger statue meant more important person.
It's possible. And creating these moai likely involved rituals and ceremonies. We believe there were these skilled teams of carvers, movers, and priests who worked together.
Sounds like a massive team effort, a real testament to their organization and skills.
Absolutely. And the moai weren't just static objects. They were part of a dynamic system of beliefs and rituals. Remember those eye sockets we talked about? They weren't just decorative. They held coral eyes, which were probably inserted during special ceremonies, giving the moai a living presence.
So the way they used the moai and how they were part of the landscape and their beliefs matters just as much as their size and shape.
Exactly, and this connection between the Rapa Nui people and their moai continues today. They're not just relics of a lost civilization, but part of a living cultural heritage that is cherished and celebrated. They've become symbols of the island's unique history and identity.
It's amazing how these statues continue to fascinate us. They're a reminder of the enduring power of human creativity and the deep connection between people and their past.
But there's another side to this story, a darker chapter that reminds us of the fragility of cultural heritage. Many of these statues were damaged or destroyed, not just by natural forces, but also by human actions, both intentional and unintentional.
We talked about conflicts between different groups on the island, but how do you accidentally damage a giant stone statue?
Well, in recent times, there have been cases where tourists or even researchers accidentally caused damage. For example, in 2020, a truck accidentally hit one of the moai, causing significant damage.
So even with the best intentions, accidents can happen. It highlights the importance of protecting these statues and being respectful when visiting places like Easter Island.
Absolutely. The Moai are not just tourist attractions, they are sacred objects with deep cultural and spiritual meaning to the Rapa Nui people. Protecting them requires both physical measures and a deep understanding and respect for their significance.
It's a reminder that when we visit places like Easter Island, we're not just observers, we're participants in an ongoing story, and our actions can have a lasting impact.
And this responsibility goes beyond just tourism. As we face challenges like climate change and protecting cultural heritage, the lessons of Easter Island can be valuable. It's like a small-scale example of the problems facing humanity, and its story offers both warnings and inspiration.
It's fascinating that these giant stone faces, created so long ago on a remote island, have so much to teach us about ourselves and the world.
And it's a reminder that even when faced with isolation and difficulty, human creativity and resilience can still exist. The Moai, they prove the strength of the human spirit. And as we continue to learn more about them, their story continues to unfold.
There's a sense of wonder and mystery surrounding them that makes you think about our place in the world and our connection to the past.
As we marvel at their grandeur, let's remember the human stories behind them. The Moai aren't just objects to admire, they embody a rich cultural heritage, and protecting them is a shared responsibility.
It's a good reminder that the past isn't just something we read about in books. It shapes who we are and how we live.
And speaking of the present, have you noticed how images of Moai are everywhere in popular culture? From emojis to movies to video games, they've become iconic.
You're right. Now that you mention it, I see them everywhere. I guess those mysterious faces are just really recognizable. What do you think this widespread use says about our fascination with the Moai?
It's a fascinating question. Perhaps it reflects a desire to connect with something ancient and mysterious, a longing for a simpler time more connected to nature and spirituality.
Or maybe it's just because those giant heads look really cool.
That's probably part of it too, but I think there's a deeper reason. The Moai have become symbols of human ingenuity, resilience, and the enduring power of cultural heritage. They represent a link to a past that both intrigues and challenges us.
And as we learn more about the Moai and their creators, this connection continues to evolve. New discoveries are constantly changing our understanding of their history and significance.
Exactly. The story of the Moai is not fixed. It's a dynamic story that changes as we find more evidence and explore different interpretations.
It's like a giant stone puzzle, with each piece revealing something new about this complex and fascinating culture. The more we learn, the more we realize how much is still out there to be discovered.
And the sense of discovery is what makes studying the Moai so captivating. It's a journey that goes beyond those familiar images of giant heads and into the heart of a culture that continues to intrigue us.
But this journey has challenges too. Protecting the Moai and their cultural heritage is an ongoing effort for the Rapa Nui people and the global community.
You're right. The Moai face dangers like erosion, vandalism, and even climate change. Their protection requires a joint effort from archaeologists, conservators, tourists, policymakers, anyone who values cultural heritage.
It's a reminder that the past isn't something we just admire from afar. It's a living presence that needs our active care and protection.
And this care goes beyond just protecting the physical statues. It's also about respecting the cultural beliefs and practices they represent. It's about understanding their meaning for the Rapa Nui people and supporting their efforts to preserve their heritage.
It's about recognizing that these giant stone faces are more than just relics from the past. They are part of a living culture that continues to evolve and adapt.
And their story, filled with innovation, resilience, and creativity, teaches us valuable lessons as we navigate the complexities of the 21st century.
It's a story that encourages us to look deeper, beyond the surface, and connect with a culture that, despite its isolation, has so much to offer the world.
But there's one Moai in particular that stands out because of its unique story and the questions it raises about cultural heritage and repatriation. Hoa Hakanaya.
Ah, yes, the stolen friend. It's currently in the British Museum, but the Rapa Nui people have been asking for its return. That's caused a lot of debate, hasn't it?
It has. On one side, there's the argument that artifacts like Hoa Hakanaya belong in their original location, that their removal was like taking away a part of their culture. The Rapa Nui people have a strong spiritual and cultural connection to this statue, and its absence is deeply felt.
It's like a missing piece of their identity.
Exactly. On the other side, there's the argument that museums, like the British Museum, have an important role in protecting and showcasing global cultural heritage. They say that these museums make these objects accessible to a wider audience. They believe that Hoa Hakanaya is a great ambassador for Rapa Nui culture, introducing people around the world to this fascinating island and its history.
It's a tough situation. Both sides have good points.
They do, and there's no easy answer. It's a complex issue with legal, ethical, and cultural considerations, but it's a conversation we need to have. We need to figure out how to balance preserving cultural heritage with respecting the rights and interests of an indigenous community.
I agree. It's about finding a solution that respects everyone involved.
And it's not just about this one statue. This debate raises bigger questions about cultural ownership, repatriation, and the purpose of museums in the 21st century. It makes us think critically about our relationship with the past and how we can ensure that cultural heritage is preserved and shared in a way that benefits everyone.
It's a conversation that requires empathy, understanding, and a willingness to listen to different perspectives.
Absolutely. And it's a conversation that's becoming more and more important as we navigate a world that is increasingly interconnected and diverse. The Moai, with their silent gaze across time and oceans, remind us of our shared humanity, even as they challenge us to face difficult questions about our past and present.
Speaking of difficult questions, let's talk about something often associated with Easter Island: collapse. Is it fair to say that the Rapa Nui civilization collapsed? And if so, what contributed to it?
The idea that Easter Island experienced a complete societal collapse has been, popularized, often portrayed as a warning about environmental destruction and resource depletion. However, recent research suggests that this might be a simplified version of what really happened.
So it's not as simple as they cut down all the trees and everything fell apart.
Exactly. While deforestation did occur and likely played a role, attributing the decline solely to human mismanagement is an oversimplification.
What else might have contributed to their decline?
Well, as we talked about earlier, the introduction of Polynesian rats probably significantly impacted the island's ecosystem. These rats, arriving with early settlers, ate palm seeds, preventing forest regrowth and adding to deforestation.
So human actions weren't the only factor. Introducing a new species unintentionally had consequences too.
Right. And climate change might have also been a factor. Studies suggest that Easter Island experienced periods of drought and other environmental shifts that could have put pressure on their resources.
So it's a complex mix of things: deforestation, invasive species, climate change, and maybe even internal social dynamics.
Precisely. And it's important to remember that despite these challenges, the Rapa Nui people showed remarkable resilience and adaptability. They developed innovative farming techniques, diversified their diet, and continued to create and innovate culturally.
So instead of a complete collapse, it's more accurate to say they went through a period of change and adaptation.
Yeah, that's a more balanced view. The Rapa Nui people didn't disappear or give in to their challenges. They found ways to survive and even thrive in a changing environment.
That's important to highlight. It's easy to focus on the collapse narrative, but Easter Island is also a story of human resilience, creativity, and adaptation.
And it reminds us that even in the face of environmental and social problems, people can find ways to cope, innovate, and preserve their culture.
That's a message that resonates today as we face our own environmental and social crises.
Absolutely. Easter Island's lessons, both its challenges and its triumphs, offer valuable insights into the complex relationship between humans and the environment and the importance of sustainability.
It reminds us that we're all connected, that our actions have consequences, and that figuring out how to live in harmony with our environment and each other is crucial.
And the Moai, these silent observers of centuries of human history on Easter Island, serve as strong reminders of both the fragility and resilience of human civilization.
They encourage us to think about our relationship with the past, to learn from both the mistakes and the successes of those who came before us, and to find ways to build a more sustainable and just future for everyone.
And maybe, just maybe, their enigmatic gaze holds a flicker of hope, a reminder that even when things are tough, human ingenuity and the enduring strength of culture can guide the way forward.
I believe you're right. There's something about these giant stone faces that that connects with us deeply, reminding us that we're all part of a bigger story, one that stretches through time and cross continents. As we continue to explore the mysteries of Easter Island and its Moai, we're not just uncovering the past.
We're also shaping our understanding of the present and the future.
It's amazing to think about how these giant stone faces have been around for centuries, witnessing the rise and fall of civilizations, the arrival of European explorers, the impact of a changing world.
They've just stood there silently, observing both the good and bad moments in human history. Their presence reminds us that our world is interconnected and that our actions have lasting consequences.
Speaking of consequences, it's hard not to think about the environmental challenges that Easter Island has faced. Deforestation and the introduction of invasive species. It's a cautionary tale that resonates with our own concerns today.
It's a powerful reminder that even remote islands aren't immune to the effects of human activity and environmental change. The story of Easter Island serves as a small-scale example of the larger problems facing our planet, emphasizing the importance of sustainable practices and responsible management of our resources.
So what can we learn from Easter Island's environmental past? How can we apply those lessons to the challenges we face today?
One important takeaway is the interconnectedness of ecosystems. When forests were cut down on Easter Island, it affected everything: the soil, water resources, plant and animal life. It shows that we need a holistic approach to taking care of the environment, understanding that actions in one area can have ripple effects everywhere.
It's like a delicate web where disturbing one part can affect the entire structure.
Exactly. Another key lesson is the importance of thinking long-term. The depletion of resources on Easter Island happened gradually, over generations. It highlights the need for practices that benefit both us and future generations.
We can't just focus on immediate gains. We have to consider the long-term consequences of our actions.
Absolutely. And Easter Island's story also underscores the value of traditional knowledge and cultural perspectives. Indigenous communities often have a deep understanding of their environment and have developed sustainable practices over centuries. Their insights can be incredibly helpful in tackling current environmental challenges.
So it's not just about using modern science and technology, it's also about respecting and integrating traditional knowledge.
Exactly. By combining scientific knowledge with indigenous wisdom, we can develop more effective and culturally sensitive approaches to conservation and sustainability.
It reminds us that we have much to learn from the past, from both the successes and the mistakes of those who came before us.
The Moai, those silent sentinels of Easter Island, serve as powerful reminders of the connection between human history, culture, and the environment. Their story is a call to action, urging us to act responsibly and sustainably to protect our planet and the well-being of generations to come.
So the next time you see a picture of a Moai, remember that there's a rich history, culture, and ecological significance behind those enigmatic faces. They are more than just stone statues. They symbolize human ingenuity, resilience, and the enduring power of cultural heritage. And their story, one of triumph and tragedy, has valuable lessons to teach us about our place in the world.
They invite us to reflect on our connection to the past, learn from those who came before us, and strive for a more sustainable and just future for everyone. After all, we're all interconnected, sharing this fragile planet we call home. And perhaps by listening to the silent wisdom of these ancient giants, we can chart a brighter path for ourselves and for the Earth.
That's a powerful thought to end on. This has been The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring.